Hi, my name is Erica Mosley, and we have Jim here. We have Jim Woods here on Chasing Unicorns, and we're going to discuss is diversity and inclusion. My name is Erica Mosley, host of Chasing Unicorns, and what I do is bridge the gap by helping students like yourself get into the tech world or any type of professional environment. Today, we're just going to touch base with Jim and just ask him some just typical questions that we all want to know about diversity and inclusion. So, Jim, hi, thank you so much for joining.
Well, it's my
What?
pleasure.
Tell me about yourself. I know that's a big
Well,
question, right?
it's a very big question, but we started our business about 1998, and the very first customer we had was Whirlpool Corporation. If you can believe that, we didn't have a business name, not a business card, nothing but an old Apple computer. And they asked me how much do I charge. Told them $100. They said that's too cheap. Then they gave me a price that was extraordinary after that. And that launched our business. I mean, I'm a kid that used to chop cotton, literally, like in the old movies in the South growing up. And here I am right now, consulting and living in Ukraine and living around the world. But we started our business really simple, Erica. And the idea was that we wanted to be just a leadership company, but with a spin attached to it. And that spin was going to be where we wanted people to attach competitive advantage to it. That you can't just be lollygagging around trying to say it's only for me. I have the corner office. No, you got to do something, accomplish business goals. But then we decided that's not enough. We have to have inclusion attached to it because, well, you can't be a leader without inclusion, and you can't be inclusive without good leadership. It just made sense.
Well rounded.
Yes.
So, what is your definition of? So, the question is, who do you serve? Do you help people into the tech, or do you help people get into any type of corporate role? What is your avenue?
Well, the need is too great. We help people in all spheres and all industries. And we have right now we're in 39 countries, and we have people in all over the world right now. And we do this because we haven't fallen upon just one niche. We try to do that, but a business is cyclical. Not all niches succeed, rise and fall at the same time, but primarily because every one of them need to find a way to attach inclusion to the business program.
So, what you're saying, every organization, regardless if it's tech or it's in the corporate world, education, all of them now is having some type of diversity and inclusion program, or do you have to introduce that program to them?
Well, it's almost, yeah. I don't know if you have any children or not, but you remember being a child yourself. And the kids will eat crushed pineapples very well, but one moment you give them some crushed peas, they spit it out. They must all do. Okay. And so, what I have been surprised by is the number of people on LinkedIn that are presidents of companies, general managers, executives who tell me they don't believe in systemic racism and how they get upset that I'm even discussing diversity. That
Um,
really
uh,
surprised me.
Right. That definitely surprised me too as well. But who are the type of people are you talking to? Are you talking to the people on the West Coast? Are you talking to the people on the East Coast? Because that's what I discovered too as well. People on the West Coast where I live at in San
Mhm.
Francisco, California, no, they don't believe in that because they wasn't raised in that type of environment.
Right.
Right, vice versa. People that live in the South where my family come from Atlanta, they understand that. So when they come over here to the West Coast, they still going on and they don't understand that. So who are the type of
Right.
people you're trying to target because in their world it's no such thing as racism or it's tucked under the rug type per se.
Well, that's a good question. I haven't checked that part of the demographics. For example, I would use Sales Navigator, and I would. This is years. This is when I started building up my list, and then I would speak to people that were human resources directors or something across America, and initially, and so I didn't bother to check if they came primarily from the West Coast or the East Coast yet. But it surprised me that I had a few people from London or even Australia that would tell me that no, we don't have a diversity problem like you do in the States or even Canada. But Boston Consulting Group just had a recent report where it's headlined that there's more racism in Canada than Canadians will admit to.
So I think the question is, everyone believes that diversity and inclusion believes is a different title. So that's the language barrier. So,
Yes.
for example, in my world, coming from a non-traditional background, breaking to tech, individuals think that diversity and inclusion mean being Black into tech.
Mm-hmm.
But diversity just means that a group of different people, and inclusion just really means different perspectives, different attitudes and personality, etc. But that does not have anything to do with being Black. So when you think about diversity and inclusion, some people might say, "Oh, we don't have that problem here because we are already a diverse
Yes.
group."
Yes.
So in our definition, diversity means two white girls, two Asian girls, two uh just two white girls and two Asian girls. That can be considered as diversity because we come from
Yes.
different countries. So are you, how do you try to vouch for diversity? Are you saying Black diversity, or are you saying diversity in a whole, so that way people can understand what type of diversity you aiming for?
Well, I'm gonna throw some. That's a very good point you just made. But I'm gonna throw something out at you that you would never imagine. One guy on LinkedIn told me that I was a. He said you are a liberal, and liberals do this and this and this and all. And he names a couple of the things about me, and clearly he stereotyped me. All right, and I wrote back to him. This is a few times I've done it, and I said, "Well, you just gave me a stereotype, but did you know that?" I have been a Mormon for more than 45 years, and I have lived my entire life, except for a short time growing up, in predominantly white neighborhoods. My entire life. My wife is white. My kids have white wives. My grandkids are mixed. All right. And so at 50 years old or so, I had to finally embrace my Blackness. It was something. I left the Mormon church, and it was something that happened. It was an epiphany, like I was born literally again, and I had compassion where I didn't have it before, and I saw the world with a new lens that was big enough for everyone. And I had to learn. It sounds silly, but I had to learn what being Black means. So diversity has a different look for me now. So I didn't come out with it saying, like people want to talk about race only and say, well, this is only for Black and white people. No, I mean, heck, Pew Research did a study recently on Hispanics. And do you know that dark-skinned Hispanics compared to light-skinned Hispanics have more prejudice? I was surprised by that.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Yes, it's racism within there, that too as well.
Yes, it
That's
is.
why the lighter color gets better jobs and front row seats as far as receptionists, etc. Vice versa, the dark skinned ones, they will have to be in the back working at the grocery stores, etc. So it's
Yes,
definitely racism within that too as well, that
it
no one
is.
definitely talks about. So that just goes down to just figure out what diversity and inclusion means back to you, and how are you trying to target it and trying to figure out what they're trying to target. So for example, let's say I'm an organization that is looking for diversity and inclusion, right?
Mhm.
But my data looks for more Asian women.
Okay.
How do you try to convey to me that diversity is well rounded than saying that I need two more Asian women into my group, if that makes sense?
Okay. Well, it's the data you sent out that said, okay, it asked your question, but you bear in mind that statistics, surveys, assessments, even AI have built in biases, just like people. So we look at those things and consider them to be the holy grail, if you will, and think they're absolute truths, and they are not. So you have a whole list of biases there. Some are deliberate. These things are created with people with known and unknown biases or prejudices. So you have to deal with that. And then the manager or supervisor is going to have their own that they know, do not know, or not willing to admit to. But I find it interesting for me is that how many people will tell me they have a magnificent program right now. But most of those people tell me, most of them that tell me that, forgive me, I don't mean to offend anyone, but most of those people tell me for the majority group, they're white people that tell me that their program is solid, there's not any problems, and they're happy with the way it's working. And then my question is for them, we live in a business climate right now that is more hyper competitive. It's not competitive. It's hyper competitive than ever before. And so you're going to tell me where nothing is stable. There is nothing stable in life, and there's nothing stable in business. So how can you tell me that your diversity and inclusion programs are good enough right now? They're always in flux. They have to be. So they never asked the underrepresented people. What is the survey from McKinsey? 75% of owners say that the diversity program is working well. Less than 45% of employees say it is not. That's what I would tell them.
Yes, 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 yes. I love how you say that. Basically, they never asked the underrepresented individuals basically about this boot camp, right? So you start up a new boot camp for diversity and inclusion, and diversity and inclusion programs is ran on white individuals. So it's just basically chain of command still for them. And the underrepresented individuals was like, oh, how do I get involved? And then when you do want to get involved, the first thing that you're going to do as far as a non-traditional person or a Black person is going to say, how do I reach that common goal? Do I see somebody that look like me? Or do I see Jim in there that looks like me? Because we're going to put ourselves in the box. That's what we do as non-traditional people, is put ourselves in the box to try to figure out if we can be able to fit. So when you look at those boot camps, you say, oh, okay, no, I don't think I can go to that boot camp. Why? Because I see the CEO is a white person. I don't think I can even get along with him. Why? Because he don't understand my burials. That's number one.
Right.
And then two, then you're like, okay, I'm just going to avoid that. Why? Because all of the CEOs is white and stuff like that. So, so if you try to just look at the CEOs, then that means you ain't gonna get into no programs. So the next step is then you be like, let me look at the staffs. Maybe if I look at the staffs, I can get close to the staffs and they can understand me. If I have to miss a day, I have a child, you know what I mean? Da, 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 da. Then you look at the staffs and you're like, oh no, none of the staffs look like me as well. These are software developers that's literally been in the circle of tech for so many years. They don't understand the background. So you're like, I don't want to even get involved with the program at all because I don't fit. So then you get other diversity inclusion people they get into the program, and then you're wondering why the pipeline for non-traditional students is lacking because they don't feel included. And it goes from included all the way from the beginning. So this is how I get myself involved with people or just organizations. I really like stalk your organization, to be honest. I stalk you. I stalk your past employees. I stalk somebody to figure out if I can have some common ground with you. And if I don't have that, and I see on the website your mission is about non-traditional students, and you a CEO of that, and you don't even have nobody that you hired. You didn't hire nobody. I can see if you're still trying to help, but you don't hire nobody, and you guys is constantly talking in a circle with each other. I'm not getting involved. I just can't because it's gonna fail.
I hope that you watch this replay and watch yourself and your facial expressions and mannerisms, because I wish I could take your passion for what you're doing right now, place it in a jar and give it to people to drink, because they need more energy, need to be on fire for seeing change rather than they're seeing resistance rather than seeing what can be done and why they need to do it.
Yes, 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 yes. And I just want people to just have a real understanding of coordinated entry to how to get into diversity. And that's what I was going to ask you, how to get into diversity inclusion. Because I luckily got into this field and everybody
Mhm.
uses that word luck. But for people that's trying to get in this field, I realize that diversity inclusion is real life HR. And if you
Mhm.
don't have no HR experience, then you're not going to get a job. It's not about a community development. It's not about advocacy. It's not about all that. If you have that, it's great, but it's all about HR. How do you get into a role, and what do you feel about that?
Well, I have a master's in HR, organizational development HR, and I've never worked specifically in HR, although I've had recruiting agencies and different things like that, because I didn't want to. The first day of class with when I taught at the university, I had the students, adult students, get a magic marker and scratch out the book that said human resource management. I told them to put it human resource leadership because we have too many managers already. And so I would tell people that who want to get involved in this to take a different approach to it, not go out and say the same old thing. Don't beat white people to death, and forgive me for saying that expression. Don't beat them to death and shame or blame them into the things. Heck, it's not their fault they were born white, or
Yes.
my fault I'm born black or Hispanic. It's just what God did. And it's no plus or minus attached to it. Just I mean, look at someone who has all these diseases that are Lou Gehrig's disease and all these things. They're probably wishing they could be somebody that was able-bodied and black, living in Mississippi chopping cotton right now. They wish that, and so we got to be thankful where we are. And if you're going to be someone that's trying to get in this field, read, 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 read. Read good things. Eliminate all the blame and all the shame and excuses and so on, and say it's up to me. I can change my attitude because people are basically still good people. They really, really, you got to have that attitude that not everybody's out to get us. Most of the time, we're the
Yeah.
ones out to get ourselves.
I like how you said that, especially about the beating up white people and stuff like that. Because I always have to be the liaison between the tech companies and non-traditional students as well as the community. And it's just like it's really professionals that's really out here that's trying to help with the community and the community that
Yes.
does want to get involved. But you can't keep pointing fingers at the community saying that there's no talent out here, right? And we're trying to help talent and there's no talent in the community saying that you're coming over here and you're not helping us find no roles and you're just putting only people that you want to get involved. So it's just have to be stop pointing from each other because that's what it is right now, right? And then I also like the fact that you said um it's just a lot like how I want to ask you this question for diversity and inclusion because a lot of people find themselves having to deal with the world at their jobs,
Mhm.
and they have to find themselves getting non-traditional people into their company. How and also being the voice for the whole company as well. How do you just break that down to whereas you can do your job per se as far as being a culture for the company and helping non-traditional students, or do you advocate to let them know that you need different diversity and inclusion individuals, like for say diversity and inclusion for an Asian individual in your group, diversity and inclusion for a typical non-background student
Mhm.
that always use the app that can come in there and say no, they don't like to use the light, they like to use the heart. And then you
Mhm.
have a traditional person for each levels. So that way, when different issues like this Asian issue come in, you won't have a black voice speaking for it. You won't have a white voice speaking for it. You have that diversity that matches up and won't sum everything in diversity and inclusion. So what do you say for people that's just trying to juggle this whole diversity and inclusion at this one organization?
Well, I appreciate what you're saying because it's absolutely perfect. I don't know if you understand who Gary Larson, the cartoonist, is. Does some cartoons that if you Google them, you will say, "Oh, I never thought of that before." There's something that makes you think, and they're always funny. But just imagine for a moment where you described that it was perfect, because that was a perfect hodgepodge, a whole perfect fruit salad mix of everybody with all their different challenges. But guess what it did? It creates more innovation, literally. Literally, people now want to come out of the woodwork, so to speak, and now they want to say, how about this? How about if we try this? And they want to do all these things they never thought of before, because someone is giving them a safe place to talk and to be their authentic self now. Does it seem like it ought to work? Well, Gary Larson has a cartoon of a guy who's supposed to be in hell. And so behind him is Satan in red with a pitchfork. And Satan has the pitchfork stuck in the guy's back. Right in front of him, he's pushing the guy to two doors. One door on the left side says, damned if you do. The door on the right side says, damned if you don't. And he said, choose. Well, sometimes the inclusion is just like that. You're damned if you do, no matter which one you go, because you're still fighting the resistance thinking it's hard. But the way you just described it, it's not that hard. You treat people just as if they were, just imagine if you were coming to your family for the 4th of July party. You've been looking forward to this for the whole year. Your mom and everybody's making their favorite foods and so on. And you show up. It's all totally diverse the way our families, if they're all Black, they're going to be diverse anyway.
Yeah.
Right? People don't realize that. But you go there and no one really pays attention to you. They don't ask you any questions. They may give you the cursory drink or something, and you go about your way or say how you're doing and move on. But no one makes you feel welcome. That's what inclusion is to a company. But the moment they make you feel loved and belong, now you're going to add something magical to what's going on.
Yeah, I love how you said that. Love and belong. I feel like a lot of time diversity and inclusion, people feel used and excluded. But as long as they continue to feel loved and belong, that definitely makes sense for. Because I just had another diversity inclusion rep on my last segment here. We were just breaking it down as well, and he is new in this role too as well. So you're just learning, because now it's going to be new diversity and inclusion reps in this world. So I want them to go back and to look at this video and understand how to maneuver in this role. We're supposed to have Madison. Shout out to Madison. She's supposed to be here too today. And she just started out a new role in diversity and inclusion too as well. So I will send her this link about any tips and the knowledge as well. So one of the main questions I get from non-traditional students is, how do you reach to other non-traditional students, because they don't care about being in the corporate world because they don't feel included, or tech? How do you reach them besides saying money in the benefits?
Well, it's there's money and benefits attached to it, but you got to have it. I shouldn't say you have to have it. You don't have to have a desire or passion to be successful, but it helps, because at the end of the day, you want to know that you did something that was meaningful rather than just making money, something that brought some joy to you. I mean, you don't want to be one of those persons that decided to, forgive me, but to end it all at a certain age, because you have all the money, the beautiful family and everything, you have the trappings, but you don't have the things that matter the most here. You know, but to get back to one of your points, please, you could tell some of the new people is that New York Times a couple of weeks ago had a wonderful article. One of them was on what it's like to be pregnant and working in tech, for example. Imagine, we always think about someone who has this pregnant glow about them. They look great, they wear it well and so on, but we forget about the people who don't wear it well, the people that are going through depression, right, immense pain. And the way they described it, I turned to my wife and I said, I apologize for never even thinking of that my whole life. You see a woman and you just figure, she showed up and wonderful, how are you doing? No, she's going through a lot of things to get and go through her day that we take for granted every day. And we need to make accommodations available for her, not because we're pitting her, because she's part of the family and it's the right thing to do. Plus, it is the law.
Now, what I really love about your story is that basically, I like that you really admitted that you found your blackness, right? A lot of
Yes.
times, people don't want to admit that and just say that they in both worlds, right? But in reality, you were in that different world. But now you have more of the diversity and inclusion. Why is because you are black and you also have a white wife too, right? So with
Yes.
that being said, is being that you are learning yourself, um, what are some of the things that you have learned um, about yourself that you didn't know before? Because why I say this is because you're in the same boat as some of my white allies that don't know nothing about black but wants to learn, right? And still constantly getting the blame from the community and stuff. So what have you learned that you're actually teaching your wife, etc.?
Well, uh, in high school in Missouri, I used to tell people jokingly that I was kicked out of this primarily black school because I couldn't dance. All right, I'm always rhythmically off the beat, no matter what.
Yeah.
So nothing can help. We take tango lessons together once a week. We try, okay. And you should see me. I'm like a Tin Man in Wizard of Oz. No matter what I do, and so for me at that school that was primarily black in high school is that I was always too white and not black enough. I never fit in because I didn't know where I was supposed to fit in. Perhaps it's like someone who decides at a certain age that they are gay. I'm just guessing. I never thought of this until just now.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know how to come out and be themselves. And for me, I had the epiphany. I had this thing. I went to bed one night, got up the next morning, and I saw a world that wasn't designed for just one church, one group of people. That was the whole world. I saw heaven being big enough for everyone. I saw a different slice of everyone. I was no longer disgruntled against people who were black and for no particular reason. I mean, it's just stupid. I would even smile and laugh at jokes where people saying, "You play basketball good, very well for a black man," or something like that. I mean, those are microaggressions I know now. But see, I would laugh at all these things as if and now I think of myself being stupid. But I had this awakening inside me. So this is like it's like a man who went to bed on the coroner's slab and woke up and has a new life.
And I'm glad that you said that because that
Yes, ma'am.
exactly how I felt too as well. And people believe that since you black, you put yourself into this category. But since
Yes.
with me, my story was totally different. My father raised me since I was 2 years old, and we was homeless all across America. And my mother left, and due to him being on drugs, etc. And during that time, my father actually decided to film us and stuff. And every time we was always at a different state, people will always like look at me like number one, like, where's your mom? And then number two, like, you just came out here and nowhere. And then number three, like, where does she live? Is she homeless? I saw her out this shelter. So I never knew where to put myself, but they didn't understand me because I was an A+ student and I didn't dress like a homeless person, but how my moves was with the man, and they never knew where I was. They always invited me to the house, but I never could have come. So it didn't add up. Like, is she rich? She go, she's a A+ student and she dressed nice, but her moves doesn't add. And then now, working, trying to help the homeless, right? And nonprofit organizations, being that I was homeless, they don't want to classify me as a professional. They want to say I'm a student because I have other experience for homelessness. So I never felt like I was a part of the homelessness and trying to help them resolve from there. And then now I'm in the tech world, right? And then I'm helping with diversity and inclusion and me trying to break in, and it's a big deal for that. So I always felt like I'm always never, you know what I mean? Like nobody really understood me. And from the outside, I'm just this black typical girl. But from the inside, it's like I don't even know where to place myself, if that makes sense. And it's not
Well,
diversity and inclusion either.
I have to ask, how how did you find the energy? How did you find the self awareness, the confidence despite moving around, having different friends all the time, different homes, starting over, making do, and so how did you manage to do that and become a very affable, a very dignified lady, woman? How did you do that?
Well, it's because of my father. So while we were homeless, going across America, the shelter specifically said that we wasn't considered a family. And why is because he was raising a female. So he couldn't go to these family shelters where all these women's was, because they
Yes.
was probably running from their mans. And if they saw my daddy, you know what I mean, they probably get scared. So we couldn't go to different shelters because I was a female. And then my daddy always taught me that you need to be a productive citizen regardless of your situation. So that's why that's why I was so good in school, make sure that I get all these A's and B's. And he also told me that since he was a man raising me, that I was supposed to be pregnant at 16 years old with all these kids. It's basically a dropout, because if a
Mhm.
man raises a child, it's not going to come out right based on
All right.
statistics, right? So he was always on there like, Erica, don't be a statistic. Don't be a statistic. And then while we were homeless, he was deciding to film us, Jim. And then that went to different newspapers and articles. If you look him up on Google now, Eric Protein Mosley, you would
Mhm.
see that. So it made me become an advocate at the beginning, saying, hey, I can do it, you can do it. And then people at the shelter started getting motivated, Jim. They were like, you work at the school, you talking to all these professionals at the shelter. What do I do? So I started helping them maneuver through the shelter system and helping them into get into other shelters and stuff like that. So it just bridged on it and continued to go that way. But I always told my father, whenever I get older, I am not thinking about the homeless. I'm done. I was going to be like Steve Harvey. I was going to be like Halle Berry, Jennifer Lopez, all of them. Be famous and not think about it, to be honest. Because when you homeless for 18 years, you're not going to think about that. But my passion has started to get back up. And then I started work at a nonprofit to where people didn't believe me again, Jim. They said, oh, you wasn't homeless. I don't believe
Mhm.
you. And I started to write a book called Trapped in the Homeless Hustle. And the tech companies wanted to know how to advance. So it's just offspring and just keep going and going and going from there from my story. So now I'm interviewing you guys just to continue to bridge the gap.
Is your dad still living?
My dad's still living, yes.
He must be profoundly happy with you, isn't he? He has
Yeah,
to be proud of you.
he is so happy and just so proud and just admiring, because he didn't know that I was gonna get in tech this
Mhm.
big. He thought I was gonna be successful, but like being in tech was like a super huge deal. So and then now not just being in tech, being an advocate in tech by
Yes.
helping them with their pipeline and helping them with their homeless situation. We're not going to just come in here and help with one problem. We're going to solve all these problems in here. And I just come with excitement and energy, so that way, like you said, people will flow and want to see themselves in me. So if I
Mhm.
did a gym, anybody can do it. But I'm not where I want to be, but I'm getting to that next level.
Well, you are getting to that next level. And look how you're not even, people think they have to be a politician or a celebrity to change the world or president of the United States. And look at you right now. You will never be able to determine how many people's lives you influenced. What was that quote I heard once? It said that man can count the seeds in an apple, but only God can count the apples in a seed. And look at you. You have all those people like tossing a stone into a placid lake that's going to wave, move on and on forever throughout eternity that you will never know. But for eternity, you will have magnified and championed lives. Man, my goodness, you are a
Thank you.
magnificent lady.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've
And
made
I
my
just
day.
good. 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 That's what I want to do, just like push a little bit of sunshine in somebody's heart and continue to pass it on. I want you to be happy for the rest of your day when you see your wife just smile and she just give it on to the kids, and the kids just give it on to the dog, and the dog just give it on to the other dog.
Well, you just gave me an excuse to go kiss her afterwards. Okay, thank you.
Good. Now, do you have any open roles available, or do you know anyone that has any open roles? A lot of the people wants to get involved.
Hmm. What are they looking to get involved in? What do they want to do?
Anything in your avenue? Do you
Hmm.
anything in your avenue?
Okay, do they, you mean like a consultant or facilitator or someone who's doing workshops or what?
A lot of the times, a lot of educators come in and they want to do diversity and inclusion. So, what I
Hmm.
believe that individuals need to learn how to do the first steps, like you said, like the workshops training,
Hmm.
the consultant training, so that way they can be well prepared. Do you do any of those services or?
Well, that is primarily what we do. We do advisory services, but we designed our business more than 20 years ago to be an online presence. This wasn't something we just jumped into because of COVID. And that because A, we like our freedom, so we can do it if we want to make it a live presentation or an on-demand presentation, and how people look at it 24 hours a day at a fee, they can do that as well. But we wanted to be in control of our own schedule. That if we don't want to work at all this week, we don't have to work, except for answer a few questions from time to time. Right. So, I the one thing I would tell people is um, there's something called it's akin to self awareness, but it's something you have to have because you have to have a very thick skin in the business. For some people, it can be feast or famine as a consultant. It's like a wonderful thing saying a consultant, but they are consulted everything's out there. Okay. And I would tell people that A is very competitive, but again, real estate, politics, teaching, everything is competitive. So find a way to stand out from everyone else. Don't go in and casting blame and shame upon people or don't do any of those things. But read everything, really good things. Read what the people like. For example, I know what the top magazines that most of the CEOs on LinkedIn will read.
Yeah.
And I read, and sometimes I will post articles from those magazines and
Mm.
newspapers on my line, and then I will write something original inside of it. So I'll post it, take a quote, and give them attribution for the quote, and write something special in there for my own ideas, and send them a link attached to it as well. And I do the same thing. Like right now, where we're speaking, I am already sending messages that are hand tailored specifically to my first connections.
Mm.
I'm doing that right now so they can keep awake and know what I'm doing
Mm.
right now. Right. So I would tell them not only to read everything, but develop self esteem or self awareness because you're going to have adversity and you're going to have people that's going to offend you not like you based upon your race, based upon your gender, based upon your sexual orientation, because you were divorced, because you're short, because you're black, because you have your natural hair. You're going to have a number of reasons that people are not going to like you. So what are you going to do? Get upset every time that happens? No, self-awareness is saying this is going to happen. The most important thing is how am I going to respond to it? Okay, that's what they have to learn. And when they do that, now they have to learn the disciplines about diversity and inclusion. I mean, read the really good books and read them from black and white authors, not just one type of author. So it can give you a wide scope of what you want to believe. For example, I read Ayn Rand's book. One of my favorites is Atlas Shrugged, where it talks about a woman. The woman is the hero in the book. Some men still think that women shouldn't be the heroes or the head of an organization. But I love that. I love my wife because my wife is someone who can stand me up toe to toe and speak her ideas. And
Mhm.
that's what I like. So I would tell the women, find yourself a role model. Find yourself a good role model, someone who lives it and breathes it from the inside out, and model yourself after that person as much as possible. and then finish your book. Did you publish your book yet?
Yes, it's on Amazon.
I will look for it and get it. Okay. All right. You got to do that. You got to keep it up and keep marketing your book because people need to hear that.
I definitely appreciate that and those tips because you just literally just broke it down. Especially when you said make sure that they have the self-awareness. You need to have self-awareness because that comes along with a lot of rejections that come in the tech world. And then especially when you start off at the beginning, you don't know why you're getting rejected. And especially when it comes to the diversity and inclusion, you just don't know why you get rejected. So keep your self-awareness and make sure you stand out. A lot of the times people don't stand out and just really quiet and shy and it's just like, hi Jim, thank you so much. You know what I mean? You're not going to remember that person. You're not going to want to kiss your wife afterwards from that person. So you have to make sure that you stand out. And I love how you say read everything. So read like the magazines that the people that you're interested in, follow the magazines and read them and post from them the quotes and also put a link as well. Feel free to also and message that recruiter too as well because they always talk about be customizable and you broke that down about how to be customizable and people don't know how and you just broke that down with just the magazines and continue to bring value and I'm going to start doing that now looking at the magazines and doing that. Yes.
Well, you know, one more tip that might be able to help them is they want to be in touch with recruiters is to if they can afford it, get LinkedIn Navigator. If they can't, just use obviously the regular LinkedIn, but put in the word search tag for recruiters and put in or find a company or a series of tech companies they're interested in and find the recruiting people in that organization. Go to their LinkedIn profile on occasion and put them on a list that you want to follow them and get their updates. Forget about everybody else. Treat it like a business, not a social club. All right. And then when you do that, you're going to get their updates. And when you get their updates now, you're going to respond to their post, even if you don't understand it. You're going to scan it and you're going to say something intelligent. Even if you have to Google the words, come back with something intelligent. And they'll remember you. In time, they're going to remember you above everyone else.
Wow. Where were you all my life? Are you on Clubhouse?
I haven't heard of Clubhouse.
Did you guys hear this? This is recording. Oh my God. I'm the first one to put Jim Woods on the Clubhouse.
Yes. Please forgive me. I went to a public school, but it's not my fault. Okay.
So do you have an iPhone? That's the main question.
My wife has said that we move back to Denver this summer. We're going to get rid of the Samsungs and get an iPhone. That's what she said.
Do you have an iPad?
No, I do not. I have an HP reversible laptop.
Okay. So the clubhouse is where professionals come together and just collaborate with ideas and partner, etc. And it's just only an audio based social club, and it's only invite only, and it's only for iPhone users. And yes, like a lot of people be on there. I host rooms every Friday with with top professionals, and we just highlight them and we just get other people on board for jobs. We talk about diversity and inclusion. You need to get on there. I don't care if it's an iPhone 5. So that way, I don't care if it's an iPhone 2. You need to get the iPhone so I can send you the link because it's invite only. And your oh my God, your valued is need to be on the Clubhouse.
Well, thank you. I will tell my wife. She's been talking about getting me one. So
good. Good. Me and your wife could be on the same page. So listen, you gonna give her kids and new phones. Oh man. Okay, so perfect. So I'm going when you get your iPhone, I want to send you that and make sure that you get aware and known on the Clubhouse too as well. And then we can continue talking about diversity and inclusion on there. And I definitely love your tips Did you have any what did you learn from COVID-19? You are already
Crisis.
successful. You are already doing good and all that stuff. Did you want to? What did you miss? Did you miss going out to the restaurants? Did you miss seeing your family? What do you
You,
miss?
you're not going to believe this, but in 12 to 13 months, I went outside, and I mean from our condo to downstairs only 6 times. So only went outside 6 times in 12 to 13 months. And that was just a short visit downstairs. All right. And I missed that, but I do my exercise here, and we're looking forward to taking more walks and doing different things like we used to. But what I have learned is that crises come and go. And when I think about the people that have Lou Gehrig's disease and all these things, that to me, in some cases, they seem worse than COVID-19. Because, I mean, a lot of us managed to survive, and not everybody's going to get COVID. I mean, it's not as bad as in 1918. I don't mean to say not as bad in a weird sense, but I mean is that we have a lot of things to be thankful for. Life, it's not a flat line where it's calm. That's death. Life is 45-degree jagged edges, peaks and valleys. That's a normal life, peaks and valleys. And in that, we have to learn and cope with crises that come and go. And I'm okay with it. It was hard, but I learned that we're all a lot more resilient than we think we are. And if we're resilient, it's time that we do more than survive, but thrive.
I love that. I love that. And you're gonna have to go outside.
Yes. Yes. I noticed the other day that I'm losing my tan. Yeah. People point at me and say, "Who's that other white guy?"
Is that a new girl? Is that a new guy?
Is it a new guy I'm seeing?
In 12 months. Like, who is this person? Oh my God. Diversity.
I hope I didn't offend anybody.
Wow.
I didn't mean to. Okay.
Yeah. It's all jokes and love.
Yes.
All jokes and love.
But thank you, Erica.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you came on and Chasing Unicorns. And make sure you look up what the Clubhouse is.
I shall do that.
And research and stuff like that. And when you're ready, I will give you your invites. And guys, to the audience, I don't have any more invites. Luckily, I do have about one more invite, and I'm going to give that to Jim. So, guys in the audience, if you are seeing this, if you want to get an invite, please feel free to message me, and I will put you on a chain for the invite. Thank you so much.
Listen, I appreciate it. And by the way, last thing, tell your dad he is my number one real life hero.
Ooh.
And he deserves, because that is what leadership is. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jim. And thank you so much for being a great leader and a good father, husband, and a community developer.
Thank you very much. You take care of yourself, all right?
Take care. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.